Joe, a lot of people are making fun of this game because of what happened to Kentucky last week. Kentucky got absolutely housed by South Carolina. And let's just call it what it is. They've been the butt of a lot of jokes this week when it comes to college football. And now they have the number one team in the country that they have to go up against the Georgia Bulldogs. I want to bring this up early and then get your thoughts on the game. Did you see Stoops' comments this week about his offense and his coach's show? Basically, it seems like he has zero faith in their offense and zero faith in anything that they're doing on their offense. Joe, this is the outright worst team that they could play right now in being the Georgia Bulldogs. What do you think about this game?
That's exactly like just my whole analysis on this. This is probably going to be the most succinct point that I could make. They couldn't move the freaking 3 for 10. 3 for 10. Brock Vandagriff was 3 for 10. It's 2024. This isn't 1912. How do you go 3 for 10 in a game? And he couldn't. They were inept, unbelievably inept offensively. And to what you just said, when you need to resurrect yourself and regain momentum and start to find confidence, it'd be great if you were playing Western Kentucky. But no, you're playing the best team in the country. This is going to be a bloodbath. I don't know if Vandagriff starts or if they go to Gavin Wimsatt. I thought the offense had a little bit more, another layer.
Yeah,
with Wimsatt, they could at least run the ball. Now, he's not a great passer, but if Vandagriff's going 3 for 10, he's clearly not capable enough of a starter to stay in there. This game, I don't know what the spread is off the top of my head. I'm going to double check it in a quick second when you start talking. I would take Georgia to cover, but it might be, I think it's like 24. I would take Georgia to cover. I absolutely would. This is going to be a splattering, beyond a splattering.
I want to be cautious here, man. You know why? Because we got it's so funny because we were saying that this was going to be a splattering last week when South Carolina
very different.
It is very different. It is very different. But I'm so gun shy to say that because of what just happened. But you're right, though. Look, here's the thing that I like. Joe, do you really go away from Vandagriff after one bad game?
When you're that bad, yes. I don't think that they will.
I mean, he went 3 of 10, but here's the stat line on that, though. 3 of 10, he had 3 drops in there, too.
Oh, so he would have gone 6 for 10.
He would have been 6 for 10. I mean, I'm just going off of PFF, who, by the way, is the partners over at Believe now. Yeah. I'm looking at this, though. I mean, Joe, if he's 6 for 10 for 60 yards, then what? Now, one of the 30 yards came on a 24-yard pass on a fade route that he completed, which was a beautiful pass. So there comes a part where I'm asking myself, like, let's just say hypothetically they don't drop those passes. Then what?
Like, he's Southern Tyler Van Dyke. Highly recruited kid, good arm, but just does not. I watched the South Carolina game.
But those drops aren't on him.
Okay, remove the drops for a second.
I can't do that, Joe. Because it completely
wait, but we have to add in this the pressures and the sacks that he took where he just did not have any capability to evade them. And I know that South Carolina gets credit for the way that they were coming after him, but he has that innate trigger that I always love to bring up with quarterbacks. He just doesn't have it. There's a reason why he didn't get on the field at Georgia, and we're quickly discovering that. And they apparently don't have anybody else in that quarterback room, so they had to turn to him. I've seen enough. I have a good enough of an eye to see when a kid's not good.
I'm not there because if he's 6 for 10 and he's got a pick, okay, then it's a completely different thing. You know, Mark Stoops came out and pretty much threw him under the bus this week. And the thing that I kept asking myself is that you have PFF coming out with a grade of Kentucky receivers having 3 drops, right? And there comes a part in time where Joe, if you would have – hold on. Let me ask you this question. Let's say that you don't know the final score and you don't know what happened in the game. And let's just say this time last week you went to Coleman. And I told you, and I came in here and I said, Joe, listen. South Carolina won, but Kentucky receivers dropped half of Vandagriff's passes. Hold on, please play this game with me. Let's just say that happened. What would you have done?
I would ask, how many passes did he throw? Wait, I think you're
okay. Fair.
for a second here, because if he threw 40 passes and he dropped half of them, that would be insane. But let's remove the completions and all that stuff for a second. They only attempted 10 passes for a reason. They couldn't move the ball. There was no momentum. There was no flow. There was no juice to the offense. It all started and ended with Vandagriff. 10 passes. The real issue here that we need to talk about here is the passing attempts was 10. This isn't Iowa. There should be an expectation that when you have a former 5-star that you can at least... They have good receivers too. They have really good receivers. I rewatched it and also watched it live, and I just don't see how that kid can get the job done. The real talking point here, though, is that this is just another warm-up game for Georgia. Georgia is going to smoke them, man. Like the way that they've played in the first 2 weeks, and it's probably going to be the degree that the way they played against Clemson, where they're just going to start grinding them down, and then they're going to blow them out in the second half.
Here's the thing that's really interesting, okay, when I look at them. This was their possessions, okay, before we get to Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Punt, 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 turnover on downs, field goal. Then they have another field goal, so 2 field goals.
Mm-hmm.
Punt, punt, interception, pick 6, interception. So 9 of the 11 drives that they have are very anemic. So I'm trying my best to not give up on somebody.
You can't defend this, Blake. It's okay. You don't need to defend him. He is bad. The Kentucky offense is bad. They made me look stupid last week. So
right. Let me ask you this. If he's going up against his all team, which I do think is interesting, do you put any stock into that before we get to Georgia here?
Yeah, I think the Georgia players are going to have a fun time picking them off. It's going to be just like practice. It's going to be just like practice.
That's going to be worse than practice. Looking at this game for Georgia, Joe, look, man, I don't know really what to say about them, right? Like, because I look at them, I don't want to say an SEC game's a tune-up game, right? Like, I'm not going to do that. But I look at them and say to myself, man, I just don't see an area where Georgia doesn't absolutely dominate them in every single facet. Yeah. Now, here's the question that I would say. I do think that this Kentucky defense will play a little bit better than they did a week ago. I do think that those blown coverages they gave up will get cleaned up and better. But I felt like, man, for Kentucky, and which is going to play into Georgia's favor here, I felt like they played uninspired because their head coach tried to go to A&M last year. When the going got tough, they just like, screw it, man. You weren't going to be here either. But, man, I just think that Georgia's going to show another display of how dominant that they're going to be. And you said it's going to be a splattering. I just want to be cautious. But, yes, there's a strong possibility that this is going to be a splattering.
There's no reason to be cautious. The other 3 previews that we're doing on this show and some of the ones that we did yesterday were incredibly even keel in just energy on this show typically. This one doesn't require that. We watched a team that could not move the ball and in a defense that was hung out to dry and a team that feels like they have no identity. And it feels like that here's the biggest thing is I have no idea what Kentucky's like offensive goal is. I just don't. I don't know what they're trying to be and what they're trying to do based on the way that they played.
We talked about this during the offseason, and I got absolutely abused by Kentucky fans. I remember when we did we didn't do it exactly like this, but we gave grades on coordinator hires, and I gave Kentucky's offensive coordinator hire an F, and they were all like, all over me like, you have no idea what you're talking about. No, it's an F. And I agree with what you just said. They have no
I don't know what they're doing. Like, I just don't know what they're going for.
Yeah. What's a better way, a better word? They have no base structure. They have no foundation.
Yep.
Like, you were having success in the run game last week. Well, run the ball. Run the ball.
Set up play action. None of that happened.
You can't do that this week, man. I think Georgia's going to be out for blood, and look, Joe, I just think that this is – I don't know what else to say. Is there anything that Georgia, let me ask you this too. Is there anything you want to see from Georgia this week? Is there something like you would want to focus in on?
I want to just continue to see them establish the run and establish the run early. I feel like they were a hair slow to do that against Clemson. I really think where their success late in the season is going to be relying on ETN now that he's back and relying on all these running backs. I would love to continue to see them do that. I know what they are defensively. There are young guys that are starting to emerge and the veterans that we know that are really good already playing at an elite level. And we know that Carson Beck looks as poised as ever, and the offensive line is incredibly downhill. The running back room is the only thing that I'm still trying to understand of like, who are the guys that they can rely on in certain situations and start to feel out what that running game identity is.
Yeah, I think it's Etienne. I think it's that running game too. I'm with you. I want to see more. If I'm being nitpicky, I'm going to see more what they're going to do with these tight ends. Right?
Yeah.
Like you have a.
Yeah, I feel like they got all these guys and it didn't really implement them the way that we would have thought. And
look, I thought the safety play against Clemson, and I'm referring to the Clemson game on this. I'm going to say this until I'm blue in the face. Georgia fans can hate me for it or not. Clemson's good defensively. Sorry. And you manhandled them. So I'm not taking anything away from you. I just want to see a little bit more from them and there because you're so dynamic in that situation. So I'm with you. Let me wrap this up by asking you this: if Kentucky is as bad as we think that they are, what do you do with Mark Stoops?
I think week 3 is too early to decide that.
I mean, did they not give him? I mean, we can look this up, but forgive me for misremembering. Did they not give him an extension?
I don't recall off the top of my head. But I mean, if this goes downhill as quickly as it's looking, that certainly needs to.
Joe, can they beat Vanderbilt right now?
No, I couldn't say that with certainty.
Well, and let me throw this your way too. You know what game that we're previewing on Monday next week? You ain't gonna believe it.
Who's Vandy's playing? Somebody who is
Vandy versus Missouri. Probably going to be
a good game.
3-0 teams. And you know
what?
Way,
you know who? Wait, hold on one second. You know who stinks that I told you was going to stink?
Who?
Mississippi State. You battled with me all off season about Mississippi State, and they got whooped by Arizona State.
I mean, in fairness, they have 3 offensive linemen that got hurt.
This video is sponsored by the online fitness training camp presented by Chris Gates Fitness. When I first started talking about Chris, about partnering with our show, not only was I excited to have a fitness sponsor for our pod, but more importantly, when I found out about how he can help people achieve their goals, I was even more bought in, because when the football season starts, it is so tough to stay on top of things and also to be able to enjoy yourself on Saturdays when it's game day. With Chris Gates Fitness's online training camp, you're going to be able to effectively stay focused, consistent, burn fat, build muscle, and do it with a like-minded community of individuals working towards the same thing. On top of this, you're going to be able to get direct coaching from Chris and the ability to ask him questions with an access to a live Q&A where you can get direct personalized support from Chris himself. Don't wait any longer. If you're trying to get in shape during this fall and you want to be able to do it with the right support system, head on over to chrisgatesfitness.com/trainingcamp or click the link in the description. And you need to do it today because you can get the first month. Personal training is expensive, folks. The first month for only $10 when you use that code RuffinoJoe. Don't wait any longer. Head on over there. BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.